bit too early for some, but as you just saw, for others, the decorations go up right after Thanksgiving.
Now, year after year, we put up the same ornaments and the same displays, but how about trying something with a vintage touch this year? Interior designer Bob Richter is here to help us put a classic spin on our holiday decorations. Bob, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
So what does that really mean, a vintage decoration?
Well, technically, vintage is anything 20 years or older, so we're vintage.
Yes.
Check. From the 80s is vintage. My wheelhouse for vintage is decidedly 30s, 40s, 50s, the kind of thing that would be in your grandmother's attic.
That's what I was going to say, because you brought some great examples here. Where do you usually, is this something you need to go to your grandmother's house and kind of rummage around to find, or do you find it other places?
Well, if you're lucky, you can find some things at your grandmother's house. But if you didn't get anything from your grandmother, it's Small Business Saturday, so go to a flea market, right? An antique shop. All of these places are filled with vintage Christmas right now.
And I imagine thrift stores too, right?
Absolutely.
And can you mix the modern and the vintage, or should you, if you're going vintage, should you go all the way?
I mix. Because as much as I'm a purist in loving vintage things, I'm also practical, so I use new lights.
Right.
When I light my tree.
Absolutely. Okay, so you brought some examples. I want to talk about this Christmas tree because this reminds me of my grandmother. We have one like that we put out from my grandmother.
I love that, and that's the best thing about vintage is because we talk about these people, right? This was my grandmother. She had one like this. So this is just a plastic blow mold Christmas tree that is easy if you have kids or pets, and you don't want something tedious. It's not going to break.
Right. And speaking of kids or pets, the ornaments are gorgeous, and some become pretty prominent heirlooms.
Yes.
How do you display them if you're worried about the kids and the pets breaking them?
Well, I often talk to people who have young children, and I say, if you want to display your grandmother's ornaments this year, why don't you put them in a nice little bowl like this?
Okay.
And put them up high enough so that you can appreciate them and think of her and have a Merry Christmas but not have them break. And then put things that were plastic or paper on the tree. In the 1950s and 60s, there was a plastic explosion in Christmas, so there's some plastic ornaments over there, and those are just as easy to find.
What are some other items here that really stick out at you that people should look out for when decorating?
Well, something that's really special to me is definitely any ornaments from World War II. You can tell that because they have the paper caps on top because things were rationed. So there's actually no silvering inside, and you have paper. So it's such a sweet, sentimental reminder of what this country did.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then for people who don't have a lot of space, they might not be able to put up a tree. How do you get that vintage look without the Christmas tree?
Well, just like blow up Santa right over there. He's easy enough. I had one just like this in my childhood bedroom as a nightlight, and you can put it in the corner and it's got that soft glow of vintage Christmas, and you can easily put it away.
And you have some old, these are DVDs but of old Christmas movies.
Exactly.
So are these
I didn't even know they made these in DVD.
And you have Miracle on 34th Street, the book. Are these things that you then display on stands? How do you display these?
Well, I actually play the DVDs every year.
You're not playing them as well.
And watch them. But I always put the Miracle on 34th Street book out because it's just so sweet and sentimental. And I actually watched it on Thanksgiving because it starts with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, right? So I think things like this, records, I mean, I still play vintage vinyl, but I'm a little kooky like that. But sometimes just propping an album, this was my Nana's. And so I think of her, the little drummer boy. Who doesn't love the little drummer boy?
And then you can explain to the kids about the days when the record used to skip and you would find all these tricks to make it continue playing. They'll have no idea.
Those days still exist in my house, so come on over.
Well, thank you, Bob, so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.